And then the sounds of piano actually matches this nature element very well.
なおかつ人の内面にこう働きかけるような響き。
And then the sounds of piano actually kind of strikes a chord in people's emotions too, so I think it works really well.
As a musician and gamer, seeing how video games have utilized pianos both musically and in gameplay has been nothing short of fascinating. For as long as I've been playing piano, it's always interested me how games over the years have chosen to represent my favorite instrument. While pianos can take center stage in a video game's narrative, such as in Eternal Sonata, an RPG adventure where you play as famous 19th century pianist Frédéric Chopin, more commonly pianos are relegated to a minor role, sometimes simply as background elements used to spice up a scene. Treating the piano as a piece of furniture like this is interesting because it understands that pianos, and grand pianos especially, have long been considered a symbol of wealth, and as such are often featured in fancy places like mansions. Finding a piano in a game makes you wonder about the building it's in, and a misplaced piano stirs up even more questions. But far more interesting, I think, is when a game has a piano that's actually playable. Interactive pianos. The depth of interactivity varies between games. Some restrict you to only a handful of notes, some play predetermined tunes, and others are played by NPCs only. But I think a piano that's played in any capacity is fun. In Overwatch, there's a piano where you can play any note just by shooting it, which led to a lot of creative YouTube performances. In Mario Kart 8's Music Park, your cart plays arpeggios as you scale the giant keyboards. And in Undertale, figuring out a specific melody on the piano is a solution to a puzzle. One of the cooler ways piano has been used in a game is in Final Fantasy V, where the character Bartz hones his piano chops by finding and playing on the 8 pianos scattered across the world. You actually get to see his progression from beginner to virtuoso as the game progresses. It starts out with Bartz fumbling through scales. But by the end, he's soaring through Debussy's Arabesque No. 1 with ease. Pianos often vary in size in games, but the craziest piano I've ever seen is undoubtedly the one conjured out of thin air by the happy mask salesman in Majora's Mask. I just need you to look at this massive 396 key beast of an instrument that would put the one Stuart & Sons made to shame. The happy mask salesman could play any piece in the world with a keyboard this immense. Or just 3 notes. Yeah, three notes, yeah, good. Nintendo is the king of putting interactive pianos in their games, such as in the Luigi's Mansion series, where you encounter a couple of haunted grands. And then there's this famous example. Super Mario 64's Mad Piano, despite the fact that it's really a small part of just one level, is an iconic moment in the game that's stuck with fans after all these years. In fact, Nintendo liked the idea of a demonic piano so much that they did it again some years later with Kirby. Since we're talking about how pianos are represented visually in games, here's something that game developers sometimes get wrong: the order and number of keys. If you're not well acquainted with the design of the keyboard, here's what it looks like as a refresher. It's split up between white and black keys, and notice how there are more white keys than black. The keyboard is organized in such a way that there's a group of 2 black keys followed by a group of 3 black keys, and this pattern repeats along the entire keyboard. The keyboard's design has never changed in centuries, but some people evidently didn't get the memo. Animal Crossing City Folk accidentally gave the Jingle Piano 2 extra keys, despite the previous game's Jingle Piano having the correct amount. Thankfully, this was caught and fixed for Animal Crossing New Leaf. The Messenger, an indie game that came out in 2018, is an even bigger head-scratcher. Several 16 and 8-bit pianos are littered across the game's final area, the music box, to varying degrees of success. The last one featured in the level is actually correct, but just a couple rooms before, they mistakenly added another key between E and F on this keyboard. I guess that'd be useful for playing songs in E half sharp. But by far the worst example, the most egregious I've yet to find in a video game, comes from a room early on in the level. Like, serious? I really don't get this one. The piano is an instrument built for storytelling, whether scoring something foreboding, distressing, unnerving, or serene and beautiful. The piano is extremely versatile, and something of a master when it comes to emotion. Even when a piece isn't trying to sell you on just one theme, the piano is still a powerful and evocative tool. I like it when the piano gets used in unexpected ways. Dark Souls, a game full of bombastic, orchestral battle themes, features a final boss scored with just a lone piano. Its understated nature speaks volumes. And Splatoon 2 uses bass notes in one track for a quirky effect. Some of the most unique implementations of piano I've seen were in horror contexts. The ways horror composers are able to invoke fear using the piano is pretty ingenious at times, and also really varied. That last one did something especially strange. By strumming through the strings on a grand piano, you can get this weird effect. It's a cool trick that's been utilized more than a couple times in the horror genre. Horror games aside, Xenoblade Chronicles is a game that makes extensive use of the piano in its soundtrack. Prominently featured in area themes, its purpose is to convey the beauty of the world around you. At other times, the piano is used to raise the tension in places filled with dangerous enemies. But my favorite way Xenoblade uses piano is also its subtlest, the title theme. See, throughout the game, you're constantly reminded of the massive scale of your adventure. In this world, people live on one of two massive titans, so big that just one of their hands holds a whole city, and leg an entire countryside. Shulk's journey starts out in one small colony, but quickly expands to the rest of the world as new, bigger threats seem to appear one after the other. In this way, I find the title theme perfectly embodies the magnitude of Xenoblade's narrative. Quiet, delicate piano notes symbolize Shulk's simple life from before leaving Colony 9, which soon escalate to a thunderous sound, not unlike the new hardships and struggles that begin to accumulate and take a toll on Shulk as the game progresses. It's poetic, really. The piano is a favorite accessory to many game soundtracks, but there have been times where the way in which it was implemented was controversial. The Legend of Zelda series has long been known for its epic overworld themes, so when Breath of the Wild's Hyrule Field was unveiled at E3 2016, it was naturally assumed that it would follow suit with series norm. This is why it came as a surprise to many when instead of the usual overworld theme treatment, Breath of the Wild instead featured understated, sparse, and sporadic piano notes. It was a bold, creative choice, and one that Nintendo knew wouldn't go unnoticed by series fans.
I know longtime fans of the series, that's going to be one of the first things they notice. You know, there's not the constant theme music always present everywhere you go. And this new take on the aural experience is really refreshing. It's true to the game, and it does resonate. It feels really good to play.
As many people have correctly pointed out, Breath of the Wild's Hyrule Field isn't epic, because Hyrule is at its lowest point in history. Almost none of the original civilization still stands, all of Link's friends are dead, and the threat of Ganon still looms to boot. It makes sense in context. Plus, piano is used elsewhere in the game to fantastic effect. I'd be lying, though, if I said I wasn't disappointed with their decision, especially when previous Hyrules felt so good and empowering to ride through. The game's use of piano elsewhere really is creative, though, and it wouldn't be fair to just gloss over. After all, no one who's played the game will ever forget the Guardian theme's famously iconic intro. One thing I love about Breath of the Wild's score is that the full tonal range of the piano gets used. The piano is an 88-key instrument with an extreme range of low and high notes, and yet just about every part of it gets played at some point. Even the lowest note, A0, which is almost never used. What Hyrule Field lacked in epicness, Hyrule Castle has in spades. Another one of my favorites is Dark Beast Ganon's theme, otherwise known as the craziest piano part I've ever heard composed for a game. I've heard a lot of jokes about this piece where the pianist goes against the sheet music and just goes wild instead. As much as I love the zany, complex piano pieces written for this game, I just as much appreciate the more restrained ones. Mipha's theme proves that even simple melodies can be beautiful ones. In fact, one of the crazier aspects of music that I've discovered is that some of the most stirring melodies contain the fewest amount of notes. For as long as I've played and listened to piano pieces, it consistently surprises me how deeply moving just a few choice piano notes can be. The piano's extreme versatility in video games shouldn't be understated. Both visually and musically, they're able to convey a myriad of different themes and ideas, and in my opinion, have contributed to some of gaming's best moments. At the end of the day, however, perhaps the piano will best be remembered as a catalyst for emotion in players.
So when you're playing the game and when Link goes through something, and then if that piano sound happens to come on, it kind of it makes you feel so emotional just hearing that perfect match of the movement and the music.
Hi there, my name's Christian, and I'm a musician and lover of video games. Here in my channel, I've been trying to blend these two passions of mine in interesting and creative ways. If that sounds cool to you, stick around maybe. Thanks.